Today on Judge Faith, she rented a house to her ex-lover, and then his kids trashed it, leaving her with a big bill.
This is the reason why you don't do business and friends.
I informed Shanika that they moved in.
Nobody is to move in without my consent.
I moved her in anyway with the kids, because
So you're just like, forget the contract.
And later, they were best friends until they came to blows in the front yard over a woman.
I end up with a big black eye. I got this scar right here on my nose.
I have scratches on my face and on my arm.
Right here, that's where he bit me.
Those photos, Your Honor, are enhanced.
I see a lot of blood on these photos. I don't think he added blood to the photos.
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor, and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real, and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiff Shanika Frazier says her ex-lover rented a house from her, then broke the lease 5 months early, leaving her home in shambles. She's suing for unpaid rent and property damage. Defendant Marcus Prim says Shanika got jealous and raised the rent when he moved his new girlfriend into the home, forcing him to move early. He's countersuing for defamation of character.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this is Frazier versus Prim.
Thank you, Barbara. Shanika Frazier?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing the defendant, Marcus Prim,
Yes.
for $4,793 for unpaid rent and property damages?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are countersuing, sir, for $1,000?
Yes.
For defamation of character?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll start with you, ma'am. Tell me how you know the defendant.
I know the defendant. I met him in the early 90s, maybe like 92, 93 sometime. We all grew up together. He was popular in school, popular with the ladies, popular just around the neighborhood. He just knew a lot
Just
of people.
popular.
Your ladies' friends, sir?
Just popular.
Mainly with the
particular
ladies.
reason?
Mainly
Okay.
with the ladies, okay?
Why were you so popular with the ladies?
Swag, I guess.
Okay, all right.
sorry.
If you have to say so yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to kind of kick it, date on and off back in the days.
So you kept in contact, and then eventually you learned that he needed a place to live.
Exactly.
And how did he come to rent out this? Was it a house?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of house was it? How many bedrooms and
It's
bathrooms?
a two-bedroom house.
Shoebox.
Okay. And did the two of you sign a lease?
Yeah.
May I see it?
Yes, ma'am.
And so when did you move into her place? When did you start leasing?
July 1st.
Okay. And it was a one-year lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you agree to pay in rent each month?
$600.
So what happened after he moved in?
So I told him, I say, well, look, I'll rent you the house for $600, but don't come, if you and your girlfriend get back together, don't move her in. And then
You didn't tell me that.
He got a ton of
You
kids.
did not tell me that.
So you have some concerns about him moving
Yeah.
people in. So
Yeah.
you specify in the lease what?
Nobody is to move in without my consent. If somebody do move in, then I will raise
I
the
told
rent.
her, Judge
I will
Faith.
raise the rent.
I told her that my wife now and my two boys at the time was moving in with me.
How long did you live there before you told her that?
Maybe a month.
She's not saying you didn't tell her. She's saying she didn't consent to it as per the lease, as is required by the lease, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I moved her in anyway with the kids, because
So you're just like, forget the contract.
They would have been homeless if I wouldn't have did that. I informed Shanika that they moved in, and she said I had to pay $800.
You're paying $600. You move additional people in, and this is an adult
A
who's
pregnant
working.
woman
Yeah,
with
but
two
this
kids.
place is a shoebox.
If you don't like where you're living, if you don't like the place that you're leasing, then move.
And he's sleeping
That's
on,
your choice. That's your choice.
and he's
You have
sleeping,
a choice.
he's sleeping on somebody's couch. And he's getting got out of $500 a month. I give him a whole shoebox. Okay? Okay, so you go from basically a corner to a shoebox and you still not happy for the same price.
So what happened? You said he ended up breaching the lease and
Yeah,
leaving
'cause
early. When did you move out?
February 2014?
Okay, so you were there for 6 months approximately.
Yeah.
One of our friends again told me, like, him and his girlfriend, him and his wife moved or whatever. So I'm like, they moved.
So by the time you found out he'd moved,
They
you'd
was
already left.
moved, and when I went over
So
there...
why'd you do that? Why did you tell her you were leaving?
I don't know. I can't even explain that. I just wasn't finna pay $800 for a shoebox no more.
And then you said he caused some damages.
When I went over there, I was like, this is the reason why you don't do business and friends, and this is the reason why. It wasn't right, and you know how most kids, you expect to see a little crayon on the wall. None of that. The doorknobs is missing. Cabinets dangling.
Where's the big boys?
I got the pictures.
Let's see
I
the
didn't
photos.
tell you how I fix it though.
Okay, so what is this?
This is the bathroom. That's the bathroom door. You see it got a hole right on the bottom.
I'm not finna
That's
do
the
that.
doorknob. That's the doorknob to the bedroom.
Did you
I'm
cause
like,
this damage?
My kids, not me.
That's the vanity.
What happened to the vanity, sir?
That's just old. My kids wasn't even. I can't even explain that. I ain't never even seen that.
No disrespect, because I love kids, but are they monkeys? Why do they keep swinging off of stuff? What is they doing?
So let me ask you this. He breached the lease and he moved out early,
Yes,
6 months
ma'am.
early.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're suing him for the remainder that will be due on the lease.
The 5 months, ma'am. Yes.
5 months,
yes,
okay.
And the property damage.
Let me ask you this, because when someone moves out early, you as the landlord have a duty to mitigate, and that means you have a duty to make an effort to find someone else to release the place in a reasonable amount of time. Did you find someone else to release it?
No, because
Okay.
because I never knew. I thought it would probably be his, to find somebody to complete his lease. I didn't think that I would
Okay.
have to go and find somebody to complete his lease.
Coming up, his kids turned her house into a playground. So who's gonna be stuck with the bill?
You can say kids will be kids and this is them playing around, but when you're living in someone else's home, you have a duty to take care of their property.
And later, which one of these grumpy old men is going to pay for throwing the first punch?
It didn't happen. He knows it didn't happen.
There's one way to settle this, if we could both take a lie detector test, and we'll find out who's telling the truth.
I am the lie detector test.
Yes.
That's my job. That's what I do, okay?
Plaintiff Shanika Frazier says Marcus rented her house, caused extensive damage, and broke the lease 5 months early. She's suing for unpaid rent and property damage. Defendant Marcus Prim says he was forced to move when Shanika raised the rent on him without warning. He's countersuing for defamation of character.
What's your counterclaim about? Your counterclaim for defamation of character. How does she defame your character?
Running around in the streets, saying
you
this
owed
about
rent?
me. And
Saying
this,
you owed money?
Telling the
No,
truth about
and
him.
probably other stuff. I heard lots more stuff.
What did you hear?
Oh, he's homeless. Yeah, I let him move in just to help him out, and that's not right.
Okay, so that's the basis of your counterclaim?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Here's the situation. If you have a contract, you said you read it, you said you understood it, you agreed to it, you signed it. Frankly, when you moved your girlfriend in, that was the breach of a lease right there. But she just went along with it. And all she asked is for you to pay an additional $200. I think that's reasonable for if you move in your girlfriend and 2 kids, I think it's reasonable for you to pay an additional $200 in rent. I don't think she was unreasonable in making that request. You do have a duty to mitigate, and that means you have a duty to try to find someone else to move in the place and start paying rent. But since you didn't do that, I'm going to order the defendant to pay you 2 months rent. $1,200 in back rent. In addition, based on the damages that you admit your kids caused, and you can say kids will be kids and this is them playing around, but when you're living in someone else's home, you have a duty to take care of their property. And when you leave it, there's an expectation that you will leave it like you found it, absent normal wear and tear. And when I look at those photos, that is over and beyond normal wear and tear. So I'm also going to order you to pay the plaintiff an additional $600 in damages. My judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, $1,800. Have a good day.
Plaintiff Alfred McGowan says his neighbor had an affair with his ex-wife and then physically attacked him in the front yard. He's suing for medical bills and pain and suffering. Defendant Mike Hussey admits he had a relationship with the plaintiff's ex-wife after she filed for divorce, but says the plaintiff started the physical fight. He's countersuing for threats and elder abuse.
Alfred McGowan.
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing the defendant, Mike Hussey,
Yes, ma'am.
for $10,000?
Yes.
And you are countersuing for $10,000?
Yes, ma'am.
And you both understand the statutory maximum in my courtroom is $5,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will start with you, Mr. McGowan. Tell me what's going on here.
Well, on July 12, 2014, My ex-wife left, and a week and a half, 2 weeks later, she moves in with Mr. Hussey, who was supposed to be my best friend. And I've known Mr. Hussey ever since he's been on the mountain. I've been there 11 years.
You've known him ever since he's been where?
On the mountain.
On the mountain?
We live in the mountains, yeah.
Okay.
We live in the mountains.
Are you two neighbors?
He lives two cabins from me, yes.
He lives in a separate community.
The only thing that separates us is a barbed wire fence.
And so you were married for how long, sir?
Approximately 25 years.
How long do you think your wife had been having an affair, which is what you're saying essentially? How long do you think she had been having an affair with him?
She told my stepmother that when she would go on her walks, she would go by Mr. Hussey's house, and he would be making passes at her. And this went on for over a year.
Okay, tell me what's going on, Mr. Hussey.
Well, after she left and filed divorce papers and had him served, then she called me, and then we started seeing each other. But before that, it didn't happen. He knows it didn't happen.
No, I don't.
I got phone calls, and I've got these logs of him coming by and constantly harassing us. And
Let me hear the phone message.
I hear you two are madly in love. I hear you go. We're outside. Had a loving hollering match the other morning. It's funny how they can get back to me here down here in the valley when I'm down here. Only been together for a week and already getting into it, man. Really good. Anyway, good luck and hope you two make it.
I don't know what he's talking about.
So you called, this was before the altercation, the physical altercation?
That was.
I mean, I can understand why you'd be upset, but, I mean, the phone call sounds like you're calling to try to stick it to him.
I was just telling him good luck because I know how she is.
Because you were really wishing him good luck? You really were wishing him well?
I hope they make it. I mean, I do, because there's no way that I would ever take her back. I mean, once a cheat, always a cheat. But the fight started over the grandsons. I decided to take my dog for a walk, and I was walking in front of Mr. Hussey's house. I'm standing in the middle of the road. He's standing underneath his porch. He turns around. I wave at him, and he goes, "How come you took those boys to my brother's place?" And I said, "What? What do you mean? I didn't take nobody to your brother's place." And I said, "What boys?" He goes, "Your grandsons." I said, "I didn't take them to your brother's place."
Do you think that perhaps he's pointing out this property because somehow they're going to come back and do something?
Well, I don't know. That's why I asked him.
Your Honor, my
why did
grandsons
you do
are
that?
thieves. I was going to explain to him, what I did. Went to the store and just made a comment. That's his brother's place right there, and that was all, that was said. And I thought, you know what? I don't have to explain nothing to him. And I told him, I said, you know what, Mike, I don't have to explain everything to you.
Let me hear from you, Mr. Hussey. Tell me your version of this. You are standing on your porch?
On my porch.
Tell me what happens.
He comes by and he says, "How do you like me now?"
What is he referring to when he says that?
I don't have no idea. It's just another part of harassment. He'd been by and walking by and driving by and yelling slurs. So anyway, he said, and then he says, I don't have to explain anything to you. If you don't like it, come out here and do something about it.
No, he did not.
So I went out to the street and I said, "Wayne, you have got to stop coming by here and harassing me and threatening me and intimidating me." And that's when he took this cup in his hand. He had it like this, and he swung it like this to try and crack it against my face so he could use it to cut me with. And he knocked me back like that, and I popped him one, and that's when he tackled me, and we ended up on the ground.
I told him, I don't have to explain everything to you. And he said, "You don't, huh?" And I said, "F no." And that's when he come walking out real fast. I'm sideways in the road, facing down the road. He's coming around this way. And he walks up to me real fast, and I really didn't think he was going to start throwing punches. Well, as soon as he got to me, he started throwing punches, and he hit me like 3 or 4 times in the head before I could ever get turned around and start swinging back. Once I got turned around and started swinging back, then I grabbed him around the neck, and we went to the ground. Okay, he's laying across this way. I ended up across this way. Well, my arm's up here by his face. Well, he just latches onto my arm. He bites me, and he won't let go. So I latched onto his arm, I bit him, and he's still not letting go. So the next thing, I reached down and I grabbed him by the groins and I squeezed as hard as I could. And then I was able to get my hand up to his face. Then I was able to get my hand to his face, and I started gouging his eye. And by that time, I was able to get my right leg up over the top of him to where I was sitting on him. And when I got sitting on him, he let go of my arm. After I got on top of him, he said, "Get the F off." I said, "Do you effing quit?" And he said, "Get the F off." And then I said it slower and louder. I said, "Do you effing quit?" He goes, "Yes, I effing quit." So I let him up.
You're saying you had him pinned down at that moment?
Yes, I did.
Next on Judge Faith, a battle of the egos could cost one of these seniors some serious cash.
He
I
said,
haven't called the police.
"I'll quit if you'll quit."
And I could have pulverized his face right then, but that's not what
You guys are too old to be engaging in this kind of vicious, physical attacking of another human being. You understand?
Plaintiff Alfred McGowan says his neighbor severely injured him during a physical altercation in the front yard. He's suing for medical bills and pain and suffering. Defendant Mike Hussey says Alfred is lying about who started the fight and had been threatening to attack him for weeks. He's countersuing for threats and elder abuse.
How long did this incident last?
It lasted a good 5 minutes.
And I could have pulverized his face right then, but that's not what
How did it end? Did someone call the police?
Yes,
He said,
I hadn't called the police.
"I'll quit if you'll quit."
No, I did not.
And then I said, so then I let go of his arm and let go, because I'm telling you, if you've got a mouthful of arm, you're not talking. And that's a fact.
So you go into the house, what happens next?
I went in the house, took a shower, and he went up there and took an ambulance ride.
Let me see the photos.
And there I have cuts on my head, and I end up with a big black eye. I got this scar right here on my nose, right here. That's where he bit me.
That's the only way I could keep him off of me. Those photos, Your Honor, are enhanced.
How do you know?
The sheriff showed me the photos he took on his cell phone.
Well, I see a lot of blood on these photos. I don't think he added blood to the photos. Do you have anything to substantiate your story as to how this happened?
Other than my neighbor calling 911 to get the sheriff up there after the fight was over with, no, there was nobody else there. There's one way to settle this, if we could both take a lie detector test, and we'll find out who's telling the truth.
Well, I am the lie detector test.
Yes,
That's my job. That's what I do, okay? Here's what I think. When you come into court and you're the plaintiff in a case, you have the burden of proof. And this is not criminal court where it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he assaulted you. It's civil, so it's a preponderance of the evidence. What is more likely than not the truth? And when I have someone who's come in front of me, and listen, I get it. I understand why and how you would be upset with Mr. Hussey. That's clear. Any reasonable person listening to you today would understand that you would be upset.
And now, Judge Faith rules.
Here's what I don't have. I don't have anything that corroborates what you're saying. All I have is someone else who's come into court and is telling another version. So a part of the issue in this case is you don't have a witness as to who threw the first punch. You say he did it, he says you did it. If you come in and you were able to prove that he actually started it and prove that he threw the first punch, I would have no problem awarding you what you're asking for based on your injuries. But you just did not meet that burden of proof. You guys are too old. And I'm not just saying that because you're over 60 years old, but I'm talking about just life experiences and maturity to be engaging in this kind of vicious, physical attacking of another human being. You understand? Your counterclaim is dismissed, sir. Your claim is dismissed. I can't do anything for you, but good luck.
If you or someone you know has a dispute, don't take the law into your own hands. Let Judge Faith rule on it for you. To submit your case, go to judgefaith.com and tell us your story. See you in court.